you have like 200% higher chance of booking the demo.
It's what I put into the tools. The content, it's the targeting, it's the audience.
Intentionality still is required for you to get the most you can out of AI.
It's all of that stuff that makes marketing great.
We saved $500,000 over the course of the quarter.
Insights into the innovations and revolutions of the marketing world. Welcome to the Marketing Scientists Podcast.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Marketing Scientists. Today, we're going to talk to Aditya from MoEngage and a former marketing leader at brands like Amplitude and Nutanix. We dive into an interesting topic, why Aditya and team decided to ship an actual physical book in their latest marketing campaign. So let's dive in and find out why. Aditya, so excited to have you here. I'm particularly pumped about digging into a couple of topics, which we engaged on LinkedIn. So I'm going to start with the first one and jump straight in. So I made a post a few weeks ago where I said, hey, branded search ads or brand SEM is probably the one sort of channel that is least incremental for most of our customers. And, I had a provocative post out there and I said, you should probably test it. And you chimed in with a contrary take, I think, where you're like, hey, we actually ran a test. The results were surprising. So I'm curious, break it down for us. What did you learn when you tested this? And would love to understand sort of which brand you did this for, what you learned, and how it was different from sort of what I was putting out there on LinkedIn.
Yeah, no. So first off, thank you for having me. Excited to be here. And that post does resonate because we actually just did this test out of, to see how it would go. What we did was in Q1 of this year, we globally shut down all branded ad spend across the board, just took it to zero. We were like, hey, is this going to really help? Is this going to really make a difference? We're like, why we're doing this bet? Where else can we invest in brand that we can't like measure or get to the audience we already could get to? Why are we paying Google, the Google tax, as everyone calls it, to get to our audiences that already know us? So we shut it down. And the first month, it was like touch and go. We were like, oh crap, this is going to work or not. But hey, we got to give it a quarter. We agreed to give it a quarter. So the leading indicators for this is we looked at site visits. We looked at the amount of leads that were coming in through branded search, how the volume was when it was on versus off. And the first month, there wasn't much difference. Then month 2, we saw a huge incremental difference, meaning when they were shut off, we started seeing more leads come in. We started seeing more people become leads and not just visitors. And then month 3 was when it really hit home. Out of the total opportunities that we generated inbound, 80% came from branded search. And we've never hit that percentage ever. And that's when we stepped out. We're like, okay, so it did 2 things for us. One, it let the rest of the executive staff see that, hey, we actually have built a brand in our region and also globally. And that we don't need to anymore pay for it, but we need to continue investing in the brand. So it was like the ad dollars we're giving to Google, where else can we go put that? And ask you resonate. And so that was the first part, right? So
okay, hang on. So what you're saying is that by turning off that brand SEM spend,
yep,
you didn't lose any business. That traffic just went into organic and came through the organic channels. And, so that's great. That's awesome. So, you are you able to say like how much money you saved as a result of that? And like,
we saved $500,000 over the course.
Look at that.
Quarter.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, $500,000 that we can spend on other stuff that we'll talk in the podcast that I couldn't do otherwise, that fuels the brand. And so that's the thing that really hit home, right? Was what you said. People were already looking for things. And it felt like more genuine to go to the organic thing than the paid link. But the thing that blew us away wasn't that. We're like, okay, that could probably happen. What really blew us away was the number of opportunities that were being generated by the organic branded search traffic that wasn't there before when we were paid.
Yep.
And so instantly our brain's like, whoa, this is totally, we didn't expect this. We thought we'd be staying the same. We didn't expect we'd go the other direction and actually get more ops as a result of it.
That's interesting. Why do you think that was happening? Like, why weren't those opportunities getting generated when you had those ads on? Like, I'm like questioning my own data there. Where were they just getting lost on the landing page, or something was not connected to the dots? Like, something seems off if you had more opportunities getting created as a result of turning branded search off.
So that's a great astute question. So we dug into it, right? And the thing we found that the branded terms we were playing were taking into the homepage, right? There was no like clear get a demo. And even the ones that had demo, people, even if they know your company and they search for it, for some reason, the paid ads, they just don't want to hit get a demo. They'll go in and mess with the product before they talk to a sales rep. So we saw that line, right? It was like, one was like, okay, these guys come in, they click the get the demo, they jump in, like, next. This was when the ads were running. And the other one was homepage and they get lost. So now when we took the ads off, we were naturally ranking. When you look in MoEngage, we started showing up for customer engagement platform. We started showing up for terms that they cared about because our brand impressions increased. And so instead of being below all the sponsored stuff, it was showing up higher. So then what we saw is when these people were clicking in, it was taking them to the actual page that had the problem that they cared about because the content itself was ranking organically. So it was like a two-hitter. Like, one, what we were doing wasn't working well, and then we discovered our brand terms were ranking higher than they were before because of all the work we had done the previous few quarters that were, I guess, in some ways being blocked by paying for traffic.
That's fascinating, right? It's so weird, the knock-on effects of doing this simple test where you're now able to meet the customer where they are. And instead of kind of forcing them or, rushing to a demo, you just let them navigate the website, navigate the solution pages that naturally just get them to then eventually book a demo. But it might take 3 more sessions and 7 more days, or 14 more days, but it's higher converting. At least in your case, that's what it seems like. That's amazing. Congrats. All right.
Yeah, no.
Mike. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, it is. And the thing is, what it really unlocked was, right, I'm not saying ads don't work. That's not at all. I'm saying like where you can put your ad budgets really matters, and where you can build brand. And now I'm just coming to the conclusion, building brand on Google is probably, at least for our business, not worth it. In previous businesses, some of them it was worth it because the cost per acquisition or cost per click was so low because you just didn't have so much competition. We have a lot of competition. So the thinking also was like, fine, you pay for my terms, you want my traffic and you're going to pay for it, fine, pay for it. I'm no longer going to fight with you on this, right? And I'm just going to go bid on my competitors' brands to see if I can get their attention, but why would I spend on my own? And the biggest thing was just being like, okay, where we really want to make our efforts here and where we do not care anymore. And that was like a soul-searching thing, I guess. But then also, again, the bigger thing was it showed our brand is pretty strong and much stronger than we thought it was.
That's amazing. Something that you said often comes up as a blocker to doing this type of testing. When people have lots of competition, people think that, hey, if I shut off my branded search ads, that my competitors are going to bid on that traffic and that search intent and steal my prospects away. Did you feel that when you were running this test? Did you, have that sort of pushback internally, or did you think about it yourself? Like, I'm curious how you dealt with that.
Yeah. So 1, great observation. 2, we did think about that quite a bit, right? But we thought about it from the sense of, are we leaving stuff on the table? And are we shooting ourselves in the foot by doing this? But the bigger thing that made us realize this is probably the right way to go about it is we started hearing when we talked to prospects who weren't prospects that we were meeting at like trade shows, hey, your brand is coming up more. I heard blah, blah, blah mention your brand. I heard blah, blah, blah talk about it in the region. And that's when my brain was like, and with the team, we're like, hey, if we're seeing this, like, could we make investments in those areas that get our ICPs mentioning us versus this blanket shot of Google on our brand? That was where we de-risked it. And I always believe when we do anything, as we talk more about this, even like the customer engagement book, like how do you de-risk these things? Meaning you're not going to take the risk out, but at least can you take the factors that you know are going to cause headaches up front? You don't know what you know, but you know what you can control. And we try to control that by when we heard from the our ICPs, hey, you're coming up in conversations, you're showing up in XYZ. We're starting to recognize we are like, okay, cool. Then to offset that, what we do is spent more time with our partners in the ecosystem and invested more with them in doing webinars, doing content, collaborating together. So that brand is still front and center, not just through our own channels, but other channels as well. So we could take this risk and be like, cool, we're going to bring this down because we have other things that are working for us.
All right, great. So that is a perfect segue into the second thing that we talked about on LinkedIn. And that was this, is it fair to say that was a magazine that you all,
No, it's
what do you call it? Yeah.
full on book.
Full on book. There we go.
So
All
I
right.
actually wrote it, put it together.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's up for print. It's launching officially next Monday. So all the people that pre-ordered it, the physical copy will be in their inboxes, or not inboxes, physical mailboxes.
Physical mailboxes. No, that's awesome. Okay, so I want to learn everything about this because this is selfish. I've been thinking about writing a book on all things marketing measurement, right?
Yeah.
Like literally the one-on-one on marketing measurement that every marketer should have in their library, right? Like that is the book that I want to write. Now, A, how did you think about this idea? What was the trigger? What got you to even think about it? B, how did you convince your finance team to let you, self-publish and mail out these books? And C, how do you think about measuring the impact of this on your business? And this is not a trick question. I'm just like generally curious how you're thinking about all of these. So take it away. Tell us all about it.
The first thing, right? It's like, how do I think about it? Why do I want to go do this? Twofold. I fundamentally believe like we're in a very brown space, right? MoEngage does marketing technology. There are a lot of options out there. You go back and forth with competitors. Our brand isn't as well known in North America, right? And it comes down to we can do more of the same, events, bid on AdWords, do all that, right? And you look at that and you're like, well, is this going to get me what I want, or I'm going to sound like everybody else? And it's like, what do I have to lose? And that's where I positioned it. In my previous life, I actually did a book also with my previous company, 21, called Fraud Fighter's Manual. And that succeeded. And it worked really well. But the core to the book and what really like why to do it, how to go sell it, and how to measure the impact on the business. Well, one, to do it is like, hey, what value will this add to the audience? Not for MoEngage. Like took the MoEngage out of the equation. If you look at the book, there's references to MoEngage, but it just says like powered by MoEngage. And we have very little vendor stuff at the end. We're like, how do you make this something that people give a shit about? Like, why will someone want to download or read this? What value will it give to them? And that's where we fundamentally said, hey, we're going to step back and we're not going to write the book. We'll help facilitate it, but we're the vessel. And so that's why we have brands like Hulu, Grammarly, Wealth Simple, and Northern Trust and Equinox. All the lifecycle marketers, directors of lifecycle, and even Meta. All of Meta's director of MarTech helped write part of this book. Okay. And so like, we're going to let these authors and these brands, and they're the practitioners, let them be the voice. We just facilitated and got everyone in the boat and made the boat pretty and look good. But the content was all them. And so that's what's like, why did you do what you wanted to do? I wanted to write something, the team, obviously, not just me, the entire team. We're like, how do we stand out and do it in a unique way where we use other people's brands to build our brand and make it the practitioners the focus? And what I realized in this space was everyone that we compete with is too busy chest beating and talking about what they do. And there's a famous, not a famous quote, but it's from the story brand. And like, we want to be Yoda to our audience's Luke. I'm here to give you a guide. I'm here to help you, but you're the hero. You're the one that's front and center. You're doing the tough work. I'm just the vendor who's giving you the lightsaber, but you got to wield it. You still got to have the powers of the force, right? And so that's like number one. Number two, selling it internally was, listen, I could do this, or I could go spend money on ads all day, or do another extra event. And numbers wise, like it depends on the length of the book and etc. But I'll just say this all in was still cheaper than doing one event.
Oh, that's amazing. All right. Fantastic.
And then impact on the business is like, we're really looking at this is we're giving it to all our target accounts. And then how many of those target accounts go from not knowing who we are to knowing who we are and engaging with us? And so the drumbeat continues. This isn't just the book is launched. We have a summit in the fall where it's called the Customer Engagement Summit, Adapt or Die. And so it continues on with the theme, and the people who co-wrote the book will be at the summit also as well, along with other speakers.
That is amazing. You have given me very clear ideas of how to make this a reality. So everyone who's listening is now going to be creating books for B2B SaaS. Maybe it'll oversaturate as a tactic, but I'm excited for it. And I think it's a great idea. So going back to, you mentioned that this was less than one event if you were to kind of sponsor an event or do something of that nature. You also talked about saving almost $500,000 in terms of a run rate from branded search ads. When you found those savings, how did you think about reallocating that spend to other channels? Like, what is your bet for the rest of the year in terms of how you are trying to get in front of lifecycle marketers in those ICP accounts? What's your strategy? Break it down for us.
Yeah, so you really want to think, again, going back to what you said earlier, right? How do you get in front of the audience and meet them where they are? And we're in customer engagement. We're talking to lifecycle marketers. We're talking to directors of CRM or MarTech. And eventually, like, they're also marketers, right? Like, when marketers talk to one another, the bar is higher than non-marketers, right? They're like, I see the bullshit you're giving me, pardon my language. I see this doesn't smell right. We can figure it out because we do these things. So, like, how do you do things that don't make them feel that way? And so we realized ultimately, like, there's going to be a sea of things at events, right? We cut the budget for spend for branded ads. Where can I use it? I'm doing the book. And the thinking was every event we go to and any event we do, we have to make it experiential. We are customer engagement. We want to engage. So if we ourselves are not engaging to you, then why would you trust us? And that engagement comes from not just the booth, but the problems we talk, how we position ourselves, and how we set ourselves up to make sure we deliver value to you and not just talk about our product. An example of this is we went to Shop Talk and we said, you know what? We tested things too as well. One of our customers was speaking there, Poshmark, and we asked her, like, hey, what do you think people care about lifecycle marketers swag-wise? And she's like, please don't give more shit. Like, I don't need more tumblers. I don't need more t-shirts. Right? And she's like, but you know what I get insane at these conferences is I get tired. I get run down. I'm drinking. And also, like, I feel like, there's bags under my eyes. And we talked her through and we're like, wait, well, let's make it experiential. And we're at our booth. We had hydration kits. And the hydration kits were Liquid IV, eye mask, and Advil. You wouldn't think it matters, but so many people came by the booth to pick those up. Just real quick, can I get one? We're like, yeah, go for it. And they'd come back later and be like, hey, what do you guys do actually? Right? And it's subtle, but the coup de grace, the thing that we were testing is a Stanley, right? Mm-hmm. And this is the experience. Everyone gives Stanleys. Everyone gives Stanleys with their company name on it. What we did differently was we said, hey, come by. We're going to engrave the Stanley on site for you, whatever you want to write on it.
Nice.
And it was part of the hydration kit. And what was interesting, human psychology 101. We had a $200 gift card to take a meeting, or we said you could get a custom engraved Stanley if you take a meeting. Obviously, I'm leading here. You can guess which one sold out the fastest and which one we barely moved. It was a Stanley that cost a tenth of that. That was moving way faster and people wanted for their moms, their kids, their husbands, their dogs, literally.
Wait, Stanleys for dogs? Is that a thing? I'm just
they would get their dog's name engraved or an image of their.
Makes sense. Yes.
So, and that's where you're like, where did you put the money? And it was like, yeah, that's an example of Shop Talk. What we do is we're going to make all our events experiential. So if you engage with MoEngage, you will walk away being like, oh, that was awesome. Like, I learned about them, but then I got this cool Stanley that's for me and personalized, which is what we do also as well. And so that's why we're like trying to tie it together. And so that's where a lot of the budget was reallocated into branded experiences, right? And the keyword is branded experiences. Like, we have dinners that we host for lifecycle marketers, but we do it in a nice place like Flower and Water in their private room. Yes, we spend a little more, but when people come in, they walk away with a great meal. And then in SF, it was local. So we gave everyone dandelion chocolate bars as an end. Like, how do we add that so you're like can feel that you're engaged and also like, oh, they get how to engage audiences and make it personal and tying back to the brand and the space that we're in.
That's a great answer, Aditya. Building on top of that, so you mentioned, you're selling to marketers, MarTech. You use the term brown space. I've never heard that before. So I gotta understand what's the connotation of the brown space. Let's talk about that. What is the brown space? What is brown space?
Yeah. I think I've never honestly looked it up, but I have a dog and I see brown space versus green space in my lawn. And there's areas he's already ventured into. I'm assuming where he's, used the lawn for purposes and it's been ventured is the brown space and the green where he hasn't. And so it's basically where people are already been and migrated to, and there's some like resemblance. So we're constantly engaging with audiences who already have a customer engagement tool or thinking they have an email provider. They want to go to a customer engagement tool across all the channels. And so that's the brown space versus green space. And so for us, it's like, there's always someone there, some way, some form. How do we get you to give a shit about what you want to solve enough that you want to like see optionality?
Okay, that's very helpful. I might use that again. I like that definition. Okay, so you're in a competitive space. I don't think there's any SaaS category left or MarTech category left that doesn't have 20 different competitors, even with all the AI stuff, right? You think about a new AI tool and then there's like 20 others that are doing pretty much the same thing. So it's a hard sort of space to be in if you're building software. How do you, as a marketing leader, how do you break through the noise, and how do you think about building, differentiation? And, some people will agree, disagree on whether differentiation is even the right thing to aim for, right? There's the whole how brands grow sort of mindset around just, you just have to be more available than everybody else and more distinct than everybody else. So I'm curious how you think about all of that in a category where you could realistically compare like 10 different vendors.
Yeah, and I think so this goes back a little bit older in my, I would say, time frame. Like a few years ago to Amplitude, I used to run marketing for them there. And obviously there we were in a heated battle with Mixpanel. I mean, like this, yeah, there's just certain things that were said and sent, and we'll just keep that out of the podcast. But your imagination can run wild, and it was done and said, and it was heated competition. We were taking their lunch and we were taking their dinner and breakfast. Just for the better product that what they charge, we were giving away for free, right? It's hard. You're like, what I'm charging you, someone else is giving away for free. Crap, how do I compete with this?
Yeah.
But what it really like comes down to, and I've learned from Amplitude and various other, I would say, highly competitive spaces that are brownfield, and to be differentiated is most founders and the company focuses on how they're different. And that's like the biggest mistake you can make. You're so worried about yourself when you say, I need to show I'm different, that you forget the problem that the audience has, right? There's a reason this audience is thinking about new solutions and in the market to make new purchases. And most of the time, what I find, like my days at Amplitude or, at MoEngage, is just spending the time understanding the audience. At Amplitude, I'll take you through the journey real quick, was everyone's talking about analytics. Everyone's sitting there talking about, hey, how do I get user acquisition? Everyone has funnels. But the thing that at that time no one was talking about, which seemed to be the biggest pain point that one set of audiences that we were carrying to needed help with, was retention. And it was in 2015, right, to like 17. Everyone cared about user acquisition. That's where everyone's like pouring their money into. But no one was talking about, a fun fact was, if you spent $10,000 on audiences, within 3 days, you'd lose 80% of those audiences. So make it simple. You spend 10 grand, within 3 days, 8 grand would just disappear, because no one cared about how to retain that user and give them value when they first came in. And that's where at Amplitude, we started just doubling down on that and really focusing on retention and aligning with product marketer managers. And that's where we got the audience right and the message of the problem. And still, it doesn't just happen overnight. We started investing in the brand in some sense, but focusing on the customer pain and the problem by constantly talking about retention and why it matters, and the other various ways, and why as a product owner you need to think about retention and how that's one of the key KPIs for your job. And this goes back to what I was saying, is like, you're going to have competition, but if you talk about what matters to that person's job and how they can do their job better and how they need to think about how to do their job better, you build trust in your brand. And that's where you see a lot of products in the space don't take that time to go to that level and be like, hey, what does my ICP care about? What wakes them up in the morning? They don't wake up in the morning saying, I'm going to go buy a new tool. They wake up in the morning going, crap, how do I if it's a metric, or how do I show value to the business, or how do I take this cohort and get them to do XYZ action? Like, they're thinking about their business and their problems, and your tools are just a way to get there. So how do you understand those problems and what they want to do for the business outcomes and tie it to their personal success? And that's what we did at Amplitude. And now at MoEngage and previous companies, we're going back to that, spending time, right? For us, we realize in this, at MoEngage, it's a very brown space. And the reason is this space has been there, people buy tools. But the biggest problem now I'm realizing more and more is at a dinner I was at, no one talked about engagement, no one talked about retention, no one talked about conversion. In a room full of lifecycle marketers and leaders, no one talked about that. And even in the book, they're like, I can't access data. I spend so much time, 80% of my time, begging my data science teams to give me data to do my campaigns. And I have to go out the door without it. And I'm like, wait, retention and engagement and conversion? They're like, no, like, you can't control that. They said that blank. You can tell me a tool and you'll say you increase XYZ, and I know it's bullshit because you can't control my campaigns. You don't make them for me. I make them. But what you can do is help me get my data quicker so I can understand what segment of my audience I can send what message to at what time to continue on their journey with me. And let me know if my journey assumptions are right or wrong, which goes back to having access to data. And so for us, we're realizing more and more access to data matters. They want to know how migration works, like if they were to come to our tool. And so like, hey, when you talk about those things, we'll engage and want to actually have a conversation with you. And that's what we're noticing in our space. And then the last one is social proof. They want to know whether brands engage with us and use us as well. And this is back to like hey, how do you differentiate? How do you do this? I'm like, well, you don't really differentiate. You just focus. A way of differentiating is focusing on the customer, what they care about in their brand. Because once they get in a sales cycle with you, all the product stuff that you talk about in a deck, everybody does that. That like getting their attention, I think, is 10 times harder than after they're in a sales cycle. Then like your sales team will come up and help win. But that's where I think all SaaS companies do great. They know how to talk about their product really well, like really well.
Yeah. No, this is great. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head with how to think about the problems that your customer or your audience has, as opposed to, just making it all about yourself and how you are different. Like, nobody cares about the difference. What people care about is, do you understand them? And if you can understand them and the thing that wakes them up in the middle of the night, or gets them frustrated, or creates the anxiety in their mind, and solve for that one thing, then it doesn't matter if you're different or not. What matters is that you have a really good solution to that, pain point. One question for you, that data point is really interesting, that it's all about, and you said something really smart, right? Which is, hey, no tool is going to suddenly make my ROI X, Y, or Z just by the nature of its existence, because it's what I put into the tool, right? It's the content, it's the targeting, it's the audience, it's all of that stuff that makes marketing great, whether it's life cycle, whether it's ad buying, whether it's, product marketing, any of that stuff. And so how do you all make data accessible? What does that mean in MoEngage and compared to other platforms that people might use for customer engagement? Like, can you give me an example of what that might look like?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of the, there's CDPs, right? There's like Segment, and then that has your data and how you plug into it. And there is also, High Touch comes up as like reverse composable, and you have optionality. So the biggest thing with us at MoEngage is we work with Databricks, we work with High Touch on things, we work with Snowflake on things. And for us, it's, look, your data is obviously not all of it's located within our walls, but our thinking is, how do we make sure we give you full zero copy data that is PII protected and secure? Mm-hmm. So meaning you can go into the Snowflake instance, pull up the information that you need, use it as you need, and then put it back, or not even put it back. Just take the metadata and the segments, so you have the PII information and the segment accordingly. And so that's how we really think, is like, how do we make sure that you have full data integration and can go bi-directionally back and forth? And we work with the Amplitudes of the world, right? We work with the Salesforce of the world too, with the CRM integration as well, for those that are using it. And that way you can use us to do the work you need to do without having to constantly go to your engineering team to pull these data requests, right? But that doesn't eliminate, and I'm going to say this, people may not like hearing it, that still doesn't eliminate having your data inside of the system completely. This is still, you have to make the API call, still you have to pull in. There may be data discrepancies. It is bound to happen, right? Nothing beats data being in the tool itself directly, but this is a close second, as close as you can get without doing that. And we have a CDP, but we don't pitch it on purpose, because we know no one's going to rip and replace to do all of this. So we're like, this is again meeting the customer where they are. You have a CDP, we'll work with you. If you want to move it over, go for it. We're here. But if you don't, that's totally fine. You can still do it this way. And that way you get off the, the rat race of constantly going to your data science team, like, can I get my segments, please? Can I get this? Yeah. Launch a campaign. And they're like, well, get behind. I have 50 other requests. Thank you.
Yeah. Get in line. Marketers are probably the poorest when it comes to access to data engineering, data analytics, data science type of support. Is that fair in your opinion? Like, do you see the same thing in your customer base?
I do. I don't know why. I don't know if it's twofold. Might sound controversial. I don't know. It's because marketers in the past have never used data that much. So data teams don't look at them with like a lens of, oh, I believe you're going to use this data. They're like, oh, you need the data because someone's asking, are you really going to use it? Like, I don't know if it's that, or it's the fact that they look at marketing and they're like, you're lower on the totem pole compared to my product data and my usage data, because I see directly how it links to money. Whereas here you're like, you have all these ways. So maybe it's a lack of understanding from the data teams how marketing works. And the other side is they don't believe marketing will use the data. So I don't know which one it is, but I definitely see it. And as a marketer, it's used to have to push, throw your elbows out, sharp elbows, and get in there and kind of bribe them with your experiential stuff. So maybe you get ahead of the line. I used to do that sometimes at other companies. I'd be like, hey, we need these data requests. I got some awesome shirts that are witty. Do you want some? Like, barter and trade here. But yeah, as marketers, I think it's there. And I don't know what part is perception, and I don't know what part is reality. But I know at every company, it's been there, and I've had to prove to them that I use the shit out of the data by like just being like, this is how the journey is for us. These are the drop-offs, and pushing them to give me that. And once they realize like I do use the data, my teams use it to make campaigns, the switch happens. And they're like, okay, this is a team that isn't just bullshitting me about the data. They actually care because it goes into how they develop their campaigns, and they're showing me this. Okay, I believe them. Like, I'm going to actually give them my weight and support them.
I like that a lot. It's almost like you are also being intentional in what you're asking for, and then tying it back to like, hey, data team, I'm not here just to ask you for stuff and then disappear for 6 months, but I'm also showing you how I'm putting that data to use. And so they're feeling the buy-in that, okay, what I did was not just shelfware, it's actually getting used. That's cool. All right.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. I do want to pause on that because you hit something in my head that it's back to, I think we don't talk enough about this, is making sure you market internally to how you use marketing and the metrics. And you as a leader have to do that. And I'm sure obviously in your past roles, you've had to do this too, right? And it's not just like a data science request, it's that you're taking that data, showing them how they've helped you and helped the business. And also like storytelling, using them as part of the storytelling. And
totally.
Yeah. And when you do that, I just see like everyone's eyeballs around the room like light up because they're like, oh, these people aren't just storytellers, they're using data. But then also makes people realize, I think the big part, like the data science team buying and everyone is, numbers, I believe, are fundamentally the common language which all departments can look and understand. Whereas marketing has a lot of jargon in terms of like storytelling, this, that. But if they see the numbers and they see how you're using numbers to push the business forward, I feel like then all the teams buy in and support you. But that's not easy to do. It's not easy to find the numbers that everyone resonates with and understand the metrics you're tracking. And so you have to be very intentional, as you said, when you make those asks, but then repurpose those asks and tie to the context to how it helps the business or is going to help the business, and then give it back to them. So they're like, oh, I see the picture now.
Yeah. No, that's great. And you know, I want to pivot to another topic, which I feel like you might have lots of opinions on right now. Obviously, I don't think there's anybody who's not talking about AI these days. So we're going to talk about AI. I have a split brain on this topic. Half my brain loves all the AI stuff. I use it personally in my personal life and my work life. I'm constantly using it and trying to find ways to use it. At the same time, the other part of my brain is like, this stuff is helpful, but not really the game changer for my brand.
Yeah.
And so there's this really interesting thing that's happening in the world, which is it is improving efficiency. It is getting, allowing you to do things faster. And yet, I don't think we've seen the evidence to suggest that there is a significant amount of business output growth that has come from it. And so I'm interested to hear your take, because you're sitting at the center of customer engagement, which I would argue is probably the thing that, whether it's VCs, whether it's your board, whether it's your internal product teams, whether it's your customers, they're probably all asking for, hey, do more stuff with AI. And at the same time, there's probably not a huge amount of business output growth that they're seeing. So I'm curious, am I describing the problem correctly? Do you feel the same way? Am I wrong about this? Like, I'm curious how you think about it, given you're a marketing leader at a company that probably has access to lots of marketing data, lots of marketing asks around personalization, around AI. So yeah, I give you a lot of different tangents to go in. If you go where you want to go with that one.
Yeah, no, I think I'll start at the highest level, right? And I think you may have posted about this, and I posted about it, but it's more just like you step back. I'll start with just AI in general. I think is amazing. I think it's great for personal life. I think it's great. But then the other side, like from a business impact, I'm truly still out on the fence of how much it's going to impact the business from a raw metrics perspective. But one thing I will say, it has increased the amount of output per person. I don't know if that output's going to get you what you want from the business side, but we can do more now. And that takes me to my next point, is the intentionality still is required for you to get the most you can out of AI. Like, I believe this. Like, you can give AI to like I have an 11-month-old. He blabbers some shit. Like, maybe AI will take that and write things. And it comes back down to, again, like, I know you mentioned you have kids, right? So like the user, I think, really matters in what the outputs will be and how it's used. And it goes back to like the leader driving it to be like, cool, this is how we're going to use AI. This is how we think we're going to make an impact with it. Are we in alignment here? And when we get tools, we have to look at where we need that. And I'll give an example of how we did it this year for a specific tool that we needed. And my goal, again, wasn't AI. Like, I'm going to be really clear in how I go through the cycles. And, even when I talk to others, like AI is great, but my goal here was I had a webinar tool in Zoom. I was like, this is garbage. I can't get my webinars out fast enough. I can't get them onto the website fast enough. And I was like, I had a challenge. I was like, listen, team, I want the webinar recording sent to the audiences 2 hours after the webinar is done, same day. That was my goal. My goal wasn't I wanted you to use AI. And we started looking at who was there, what could do this. We looked at Goldcast. We looked at Zuddle, right? And they were both great. But we ended up going with Zuddle. And we thought that was the platform that best fit what we wanted because we wanted the webinar done, ready to send the customers in 2 hours. All the clips our sales team could use to be done in those 2 hours and be able to have the sales team reach out to the audience that showed up or didn't show up to that webinar same day. Our goal wasn't, hey, go get AI to do this. Our goal was, I need to accomplish this business outcome. Why? If we show we move really fast to our audience, it builds a brand perception of these guys are on it. They're not waiting around for the webinar to come. And we're still fresh in your mind from the webinar. And we did this for a few webinars. The first one we did it with, we got maybe, I would say we increased our demo requests by like 120%, like previously from where it was. Just because we got this out, we sent the email, take a demo. Here's the incentive for taking the demo. People came in, they did it. And now we do it for every webinar and we see the steady beat of demo requests coming in because we're following up on the same day. And this goes back to like when you look at AI, like, yes, AI is great, but when everyone says we're AI powered, we're this, I'm like, dude, that's great, but eye rolls you're getting right now when you say that. But instead, you're like, look, we allow you to reach your audience within 2 hours of doing your webinar. That is like very different than saying we're AI-powered webinar platform. And I'm not knocking anyone's positioning, but I'm just saying, think of the outcomes that you can help the business drive. And that's where we're back to the AI stuff. Like there's going to be AI brain rot and sludge that comes out. And people who aren't like intentional with how they want to use AI, where they want to use it, are going to have more of that sludge. And everyone's going to look the same. They're going to sound the same. But people, and this comes down to leaders like you and me to be like, hey, this is what we want to go accomplish. And if you have a tool that helps us do it, great. Or if you just use ChatGPT to do it, great. But this is what we want to do. And being really clear and intentional in how you're going to use AI. You can use it for everything. But then again, like, where is your superpower going to be? And I believe every marketing team has a superpower. And I think for us, like, I'm like, hey, content's our superpower. And engagement, like great content that engages at events or in person or online. That's our superpower. We're going to do everything to fuel that as fast as we can. And that's how I try to drive the clarity.
That's great. Outcomes before the hype. I like that. And being very intentional about sort of what the tool is capable of achieving with those outcomes in mind. I like it. That was a great, decision that you made, which is, hey, I want to get the recording out and, have my sales team do the outreach within the day of the webinar. That's fantastic. It's given me an idea of how to, operationalize that on our end. Have you made other tweaks like that in your, marketing engine that have resulted in other sort of similarly, strong sort of wins?
Yeah, we did. There's another one we did, which I don't know if it's AI or not. Again, there's an appetite right now, I would say, in every organization to buy tools that make you go faster. So this could be AI or not, right? So we get high inbound leads. We ask for a bunch of fields. And I'm like, what the F are we doing here? I'm like, what's the bare, and I challenged my marketing ops team, what's the bare number of fields you need? And they're like, we're asking 6. Cut this shit down. What's the bare minimum you need? And they're like, I need 3. I'm like, cool. How long there's an SLA to do it. They're like, oh, we need like 30 minutes after the demo request comes in to fill it. I'm like, 30 minutes? No, you're smoking. This is not okay. Like, we got to get this down to 1 minute. And they're like, what? I'm like, go look. Tell me what tools are. I'm like, I can tell you a few like Clay and all these other automation tools. And that's where I don't know if it's AI or not, but it's more like, I need this done. This is the outcome. Why? Here's data that shows if you follow up with the lead within 5 minutes of them reaching for a demo request, you have it's 200% higher chance of booking the demo than if you wait 30 minutes. I'm like, why the F are we waiting 30 minutes? And sorry for my language. I was just very passionate.
Oh, I said, you're good. Yeah, this is good.
But it's just like, look, these are needed for the business outcomes. And I know it seems simple, but then it lit a fire under their butt. They went and found the tools to go make it happen. And they did that. Then next, we have the book that's coming out. We did a pre-order. And before, the entire thinking was, oh, we need to ship them this. So let me ask them for the first name, address, this. And I was like, no, ask them for their work email. If they want a physical copy, they check the box and we'll follow up and ask them for an address. That small tweak for the book, right, has now made it the most requested downloaded asset in the history of the company within like
Nice.
the last 3 weeks. But that's because the biggest thing also, and we don't talk enough about it here, B2B marketers make it hard for their audiences to reach out to them. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Like take that problem of, you're like, oh, it's so hard to get the information. Make it your problem and solve it internally. And I know Zoom Infos and all these things did that before, but like anytime you do that, like, how do I make it easy for the customer to reach my sales rep? Don't add more steps. Or how do I make it easy for them to get this content that adds value? Ungate all the case studies, right? Like where you don't need an email that helps the brand grow. And this goes back to our previous conversation. Do that, because then it'll benefit the larger brand. And I know you won't see it now, but you will see it show up in the scorecard.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. I love all of those examples. I literally was having a conversation with my marketer and my sales rep in our Slack today about whether we want to add more fields. Like you, we literally have one field in our demo forms, and that's your email. Everything else just happens automatically. And obviously, sometimes you're going to get something at Gmail, and we're like, we should really ask for the company name. We should force them to use work email. Like, who cares? If they're interested, don't you think that they will just raise their hand and talk to us? Like, who cares about getting more information at that point if, they are going to show up at the demo and be engaged? And, now there's counter to some of my points, I'm sure. But okay, one question for you. Why don't you just ask your prospects to book online? Is there a follow-up that your sales team does? Like, or they can't like go direct into a salesperson's calendar and book a demo?
So you hit the nail on the head. That's the next step we're trying to get.
All right, boom. There we go.
That helps. And we're like, hey, how do we do self-booking here? And we're testing it out with events for self-booking, see how it goes. You actually, another thing as you're thinking through this, right? You should ask for the work email, but there's something beautiful in like whatever booking tool you have, you can ask for one more question additional when they're about to book. And in my past, like I found when you ask for the work email, then you take the calendar and you ask that one additional question as they're confirming their booking. That I found those who do that have a higher chance of actually converting down the funnel than the ones who don't fill that out. So I would say, yeah, take the non-work work. Who gives a crap? Take that. But then that additional question we always would ask is, hey, it'd either be, hey, what's the problem you're looking to solve?
Right.
And drop down for that. And then, or it would be, hey, what's a good number to reach you at? When we test A/B each one of those. And we found, funny enough, the problem they want to solve for led to higher conversions down the pipe and made the meeting higher quality than asking for the phone number. But asking that question showed the drop-offs of who's just looky-loos versus who's really interested in going further. And what are you trying to solve shouldn't be just like retention, engagement. No, it should be very like, you should know the customer. It should be like, hey, I'm trying to understand how I can get my campaigns out the door faster. I'm trying to understand how I can get more data so I can segment and personalize my campaigns. Or basically things that really are pain points, that because it shows you understood the customer.
Do you pre-populate that, or do you just give that as an open text answer?
I'll pre-populate.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Gotcha. That's why you were being specific about it. Very cool. Well, Aditya, this has been fantastic. I want to ask you maybe a couple of last questions here before we wrap up. So I try to do a little bit of a rapid fire with everybody. So, and then we'll close. So get ready for your rapid fire. First one, a tool that you use personally in your marketing life that you can't live without.
In my marketing life that I can't live without. And they're end-of-lifing this tool. It's Pocket. So I got to find a solution for it.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. I've been a Pocket user in my career, so I can appreciate that. I feel like whatever tool that I use in that category ends up being shelfware after a few years anyway. Were you a legit, like, would you go back and read everything in Pocket, or?
I actually did, and I had automations on my Pocket, which based on saving it, based on the tags that are there, would email me at certain points of the week, and I'd pay for if this, then that to do that. So I would read it like before going to bed at night, or if it was an article I tagged it, I liked it, it would post to my Twitter accordingly, which is simple stuff. Or it would actually literally, if this and that, like would email members of my team based on the tags that I had.
Nice. Okay. So you're a very power user of that tool. That's awesome. Okay. One, it could be a B2B campaign or it could be a B2C campaign, a campaign that you wish you had made.
Oh man. So one of the coolest brands, I think, and I take a lot of inspiration from this, is from Wiz. And what Wiz did was they did a video store at one of their events. And I was like, damn. And that's what told me is because they did a Blockbuster video store. What they did was their buyers are of the age where they know Blockbuster and they know video rentals and they know like they got to take a tape. They understood the full nostalgia to bring it back to buy that love so they could have those conversations.
That is very cool. That is a unique insight on your buyer. That's awesome. Okay, good one. One thing that you're excited to build next, so as part of your marketing team, as part of your marketing roadmap, is there something that you're looking forward to? I know you launched some amazing stuff with the book, but what's next? What's the big next idea, if you're allowed to speak about it?
So the big idea, I think, like this may sound like a little bit of a lull, but really want to go and build a customer engagement game and like Oregon Trail style.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And talk about like the journey it takes to go on the customer engagement game, like, and really like make sure it resonates with the audience. And like, you know, you died of lack of data access instead of dysentery, like how to make it much more applicable to them. That's like what I like want to get to like next in the creative journey and campaign.
That's amazing. All right. I mean, that sounds wonderful, and what a great note to end it on. I would play that game, so there we go. Aditya, this was awesome. Thank you for sharing all your knowledge and your hot takes and all things B2B marketing. We didn't talk about B2B marketing, but like I thought I learned a lot from you. So thanks for doing this, and maybe we'll do it again in a few months or next year and talk about another topic then.
Always up for it. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it, man. It's been awesome to connect with someone who I met off LinkedIn. I'll always say that's the funny side of things.
There you have it, folks. That was Aditya from MoEngage. If you haven't checked out MoEngage, give them a look and tune in again next week for another great episode.